Welcome to this broadcasting service. Please note the main feature is recorded live and will begin shortly. Feel free to comment on the live broadcast or take part later in our Discord community.
Because it's the silly, stupid, fascinating, weird, wonderful. They're my people, and more often than not, they're the geeky people as well.
I mentioned Betamax. For anybody older, that's the old version of a video cassette. Video cassette is an old version of a DVD. A DVD is not set in the clouds. Hello, welcome to another episode of Faith and Geekery with a slightly adjusted intro credit. My name is Mark, and today we are talking about marveling at the universe. So all things Marvel Universe. If you didn't get that kind of cryptic clue, I'm going to not be talking alone on this. Thank goodness. We're going to be hopefully being joined by Becca and Luke, who will be coming on just in a sec. Bam and bam. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
How are we all doing? All right?
So good.
Doing really well, thank you.
Jolly good.
I love that intro, Mark. That was so nerdy. That was. I grinned all the way through it. It was brilliant.
Jolly good.
Not least a tour of your bookshelves.
Absolutely. I feel like we need a challenge of how many can you remember.
Well, I've got to slightly admit that I didn't alter the shelves that much. I was just like,
no, that's what I assumed as well.
Yeah. I was like, I only added 3 things and I rearranged 2 things just so it would fit in better. And I missed off the Millennium Falcon, which I was very reserved about.
Well, you have to change it and then see if anyone spots what's different in the different shots.
Oh, it took me far too long editing it to do otherwise. But there is going to be a question for everyone who is watching live, and in the Discord community and watching later, is what geeky things have you been up to recently? And I guess I would like to start off by asking Becca and Luke.
Do you want to go first, Becca?
No, come back to me.
I'll vamp. I've been playing D&D again, which has been lots of fun. This week we went on an underwater adventure and met some merfolk and fought a giant shark. I got a magical trident. It was all incredibly Little Mermaid, but it was a lot of fun.
Under the sea.
Yeah, we had to... there were so many jokes throughout the course of just us singing songs, but it was lots of fun. So yeah, that was my main nerdy thing from this week. Good.
For me, and in fact I can't. Oh no, I won't show it just yet. I've been doing some 3D printing, so I'll show you that little picture in a little while. I've also been doing some running. I don't know if that's geekiness or not, but I've managed to kind of get back into my 5k running, which is a relief, as much as to get out the house as well as anything else.
I think it's kind of geeky because there's a real culture around doing 5k and park runs and things like that. So yeah, don't sell yourself short, Mark.
And to be honest, I kind of started off doing the 5k runs with the Couch to 5k app, and I was kind of doing it with, is it Joe Wiley who was doing it, and she kind of said, go and get the most kind of the craziest kind of running tops that you can, and just to kind of really kind of elevate yourself into it, throw yourself into it. So I got a Spider-Man kind of running top, and in fact, no, I think that was a Father's Day present from Fuse back. I got a Thor running top, and now I've got a Spider-Man running top, and so I'm just there going to go, what other running top can I have of craziness? And and don't get me wrong, people do look at me in a case of saying, what on earth is that middle-aged man wearing? But I embrace it. I embrace it, and just kind of, some people give me a knowing nod of kind of going, yes, I approve. And other times I try and run where no one else is,
Nice.
which always helps. What about you, Becca? What have you been up to?
Right, I have thought of my geekiness. And if running counts as geekiness, then I am currently binge watching my DIY wife, which is on YouTube. And it is a man and his wife, and she does the DIY, and he does really stupid stuff in the background. And it is just compulsive watching. She is phenomenal in what she can do. She gets him to do the heavy lifting sometimes. But I've been binge watching that since I got home from a conference yesterday.
Has it inspired you to make any plans for your house?
Oh, I love the idea of being able to just boss it when it comes to power tools. In my house, my mum was always the power tool user, and I quite like the idea of just going, you know what, I can imagine it, so I can make it.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds dangerous.
In my family, though, I kind of come at stuff, especially DIY, with a bit of common sense, dare I say. And so I'll just kind of go, why do it this way when I could just do this? And and one of the examples here is with, I won't mention which member of my family, but I went to visit one member of my family, and they were having problems, and they had to redo part of their kitchen. And I was like, what happened? And they went, well, I tried changing the washing machine. I said, oh, yeah. You said about there's an issue with the washing machine. And wasn't it just the belt that had gone? And the individual said, yeah, but it was a lot harder. I said, well, you just take the panel off the back and it's accessible to the belt. And they kind of went, yeah, I didn't realise. I was like, so what did you do? And they kind of went, I went in from the top. And I was like, but there's a concrete block in the top. And I went, yeah, there was. And I was like, so what? So you're telling me you went in through the top of the washing machine and down? And they went, yeah. And I was just like, so hang on. There's not only a concrete block. There's electronics mothering board things there. Motherboard there. There's like water pipes. And they're like, yeah. And I kind of went, so this is what went wrong then, didn't it? And the individual went, yeah, basically, I thought I put it all back together again. I turned it on and it exploded. And I think what had happened is basically one of the water connectors didn't go on properly and basically put water onto the mains vault motor. And therefore, but the problem is, it didn't just kill the washing machine. Because of the explosion, it buckled in place and took out the adjoining units because it was just stuck in place. And so as I talk about, so it was just an excuse to diss about one member of my family. But that's why I bring a bit of common sense to the old DIY. But yes, no, it can be fun. What else have I done? I think I'll I can show you actually my 3D printing. Can you see that there?
Yes.
It looks a bit boring so far, if I'm honest. The printer is currently at work downstairs. Basically, this is 2/8 of a Mandalorian helmet.
That's really cool.
Okay.
Or I'm hoping it will be. I did start earlier on in the week, and the very first one just died. And I was using a different design, and it was flimsy, and it just didn't even. I was trying to do it in very big pieces, and it was appalling.
So with where you've got the ridges.
Yeah.
Is that something that you smooth out afterwards, or is that something that you're going to keep?
That is part of the detail.
That's part of the detailing.
Yeah. So, can you see my mouse on there or not?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. I was just wondering how it works. So basically, just like the lip at the bottom. I think those are part of the overall detail, the design. I think.
Yeah.
But I haven't printed enough of them to know. I'm fairly sure this is like the top bit. But anyway.
Are you going have you got a bit of a plan? Are you gonna, go for a classic Boba Fett or a more modern design?
I think I'm just gonna see how I go.
Yeah.
From the off, there is a bit of a joke about possibly going to a youth conference as it. I'm talking about the way. Anyway, but that's by the by. But folks, we've been talking about our sort of geekiness. Please kind of be in touch, leave a comment about what sort of geeky things that you've been up to, yeah, it will be good to hear from you, either live in the comments or otherwise. Tonight, though, I better say though about our Geeks Gallery. So the bits of that on our Discord, which there is a link in the description about joining that, downloading an app. It isn't that hard to do, but can you hear the helicopter going overhead? Apologies. But basically, in our Geeks Gallery on our Discord, we've got something here, which I believe is your making, Luke, is it?
Yeah, that's mine.
Fantastic. Do you want to share a little bit about it?
Sure, yeah. So this is a model that I painted up over the last week. It's called the Craven King. So he's a ghostly, important fella on his big chair that floats around, and he's got his two little buddies.
I think you see the two little buddies. Oh wow, like they're kind of
either side of him. Yeah. I think they're two separate entities and not all one entity. We could get into a discussion about Trinitarian theology.
Please don't.
These are three very distinct elements.
They look like Death Eaters or kind of like Reaper kind of sort of things.
Yeah, almost Dementor-esque from Harry Potter.
That's very cool.
That's very cool. Lovely colours as well.
The movement in that, yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun using some contrast paints, which are thinned down paints that have some really good sort of shading built in. And I went to a workshop a couple of months ago now, where they taught us how to blend the paints together. So it's sort of got purple blending down into kind of a turquoisey blue, and then you can't see them so well, but on the two little buddies, it's sort of black blending down into a similar blue. But yeah, really fun to paint, and yeah, it's one of those kind of satisfying ones to get finished.
Very cool. And then also, is it Ben? Who is that? I'm going by usernames, isn't it? I want to say who is it? Should really name, shouldn't I? Mendip Nomad. Is
Tom.
that Ben? Was it Tom?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So that's Tom's kind of creations of. Is it No, where is it? Oh, it isn't the description. But those are pretty cool.
Soul-blight grave lords, I believe. Here
he is. Is that? I was trying.
There we go.
Oh, fantastic. Sorry about that. It's me. Hello. Yes, hello, Tom. Sorry. It's the thing with usernames. It's very hard to work out who's who. But thank you. Yeah, no, it's fab. Really good. And yeah, I'm hoping to maybe have a little bit of a go doing a bit more painting of minis rather than random ones and things. David Greet, I've been learning about Battletech lore and playing Magic the Gathering as usual. This is a common theme. I feel as if we need to cover this one time, but I really am not experienced in any way, shape or form about Magic the Gathering. Oops, sorry. I'll be really interested by that. We've got the descriptions as well. Oops, sorry. Soulblight Graveyards, Age of Sigma, Vampires and Zombies. They're very cool.
I think these all came from they released a board game called Curse City, which came with tons of amazing miniatures, and I managed to, for the sake of my wallet, resist the temptation of buying it. But there's some awesome miniatures in there.
And I think that's good, that isn't it? Where you've got kind of board games or kind of games or kind of ways in which you can kind of suddenly populate your library quite quickly, can't you? Because then even if you only play the game occasionally, you suddenly have a much broader catalogue of characters that you can kind of bring into other kind of games or campaigns and things like that. Yes, Curse City, but we'll put adventures on Discord. Cool. That'll be adventurers on Discord. That sounds cool. So, fantastic. Thank you, folks. I believe that's everything from Geeks Gallery. And don't be a stranger. Come onto Discord and join us at that part of conversation, or general stuff as well. We cover all sorts on there too. Should we move on to? Oh, in fact, sorry, that's my bit, isn't it? Should we move on to the main feature about marveling at the universe?
Let us marvel.
Yeah, I was. What was I going to say? I was playing around with titles, and a part of me was going to put Feige's. Is it Feige? The main director of Marvel. Is it Feige's marvelous? Feige's marvelous medicine. And I was just like, oh, that's a little bit too abstract and a bit too kind of Roald Dahl, rather than anything else.
Isn't it, Mark?
Oh, it might be. Yeah. Oh, I should really know this, shouldn't I?
How splendid.
So we're coming on to talk about Marvel. I'm also just trying to look at where our stuff is next. I really haven't got it on there. So yes, Marvel. Where do we begin with Marvel? I guess should we start at the very, very beginning and talk about how we kind of first came across Marvel, if we can think that far back and otherwise?
I think for me it was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films were kind of my first exposure to any sort of anything related to Marvel, I believe, because I really loved those films as a child, and still enjoy them to this day, and I will defend Spider-Man 3 for all its failings. I think it is a good film. But yeah, I think that was my first kind of introduction to Marvel, and then obviously there was a bit of a gap, and then you start getting the MCU growing, and that's when I really got into the sort of broader world beyond just Spider-Man.
I'm sure we can talk about Spider-Man 3 a little bit later. I have various opinions on that. But for me, I was trying to work out, because I never kind of got into kind of graphic novels, comic books and things like that from Marvel. But I think the moment I kind of really recognised them would have been either kind of... it would have been the Hulk, the original TV series, the Hulk, and the reruns of the Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. Is it Ferrigno? As the really cheesy late 70s kind of like, you won't like it when I get angry, and the whole kind of green eyes thing, just looking up for it and kind of changing,
ripping out of his top.
and stomping through blatant polystyrene stuff. It's just like it's like, and it's just like, that's a different person. It's just like, and not that much bigger. There's a little post there. Lou Ferrigno, yes, absolutely. And do you know what I mean? I think it was just so kind of, I guess it was so new, so fresh, but also quite quirky and cheesy, low budget. Unlike, it would be really good to do a comparison between kind of the budget of the original TV series of the Hulk compared to kind of various reiterations of it. But yeah, that for me was the moment I kind of was introduced to Hulk. And was that the same for you, Becca?
The Hulk. It was one of my favourite TV shows at the time. I do remember reading a Spider-Man comic, and it was the first and the last Spider-Man comic that I would read, because his girlfriend dies in it. She gets thrown.
Spoilers!
I know. There's an actual spoiler. She gets thrown off, something by the Green Goblin, and breaks her spine on the way down. And I never picked up another. I don't think I ever picked up another comic book again. I was so heartbroken, having become so invested in the characters through the graphic novel, and then for her to die. I kind of the antithesis of that was that I then really got into reading The Crow, which is just so dark anyway. So sorry, it was a real spoiler. But then it's one parallel universe of Spider-Man, so she's not always dead.
That is true.
It's not always dead.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of seeing some of the kind of animated kind of stuff, the X-Men, and the kind of...
I want to jump in because I feel like I did tell a lie, because I do distinctly remember on Saturday mornings watching the Spider-Man cartoon and the X-Men Adventures cartoons, because they were brilliant as well, weren't they? Just sort of peak 90s excellentness.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's good.
And even to this day, I've got a Wolverine on my guitar case, and it was just at the time, it was just from... I thought Wolverine was cool before the kind of the X-Men kind of film franchise really kind of kicked in with it. I was into Wolverine in the yellow with the yellow suit beforehand, and nowadays people are going to going, why have you got Wolverine on your guitar case? It's like, because it hasn't fallen off yet. Basically, that's it. You know, it's 90s sellotape there. You know, sorry, early 2000s sellotape. But oh yeah, maybe it was around the time of the films. But yeah, always a big fan of Wolverine. And the more feral kind of Wolverine rather than kind of the more house trained that he became in the films. Yes.
Yeah, he was slightly grumpy in the films rather than particularly dangerous.
He started off being really kind of annoying, and then he became a teacher. Sorry, again, the actual spoilers. I think it's been out for long enough. To kind of like go, come on, this is Wolverine here. He's like meant to be kind of really, almost feral sort of thing, and yet you just kind of you've got him teaching, Oh, here we go. Fun fact: Wolverine's first appearance was a Hulk comic. Yeah, very cool.
Oh. We're here for the fun facts, Tim and Anne.
Yeah. So, where do we begin? Do we begin with the comics? I mean, I've got with me. I've got my Marvel Encyclopedia, which is the updated and expanded, and then they had to expand it further because it keeps on changing, doesn't it? I think for me, kind of, the Hulk was the way in. Then followed very closely by Spider-Man, and I think it's because my older brother was into Spider-Man in a big way. And then I think as it kind of... I think Spider-Man was that very first kind of jolly into movies, wasn't it? With the Tobey Maguire.
There was kind of a surge, wasn't
X-Men?
there? I can't remember which was first.
Oh, in fact, it may be X-Men.
Should we look?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do this.
Yeah, I think we need that.
X-Men 1 was 2002.
I hope the viewers at home are really enjoying the research we put into
So yeah,
these episodes.
X-Men came first. Yeah.
X-Men was before Spider-Man.
So I mean, I really like X-Men, and oh my. Did I actually have it on video?
I did.
I think I had it on video. Oh dear me. And I thought that was just kind of really kind of quirky, and it was almost kind of plausible. Technically there was a Doctor Strange movie in the...
It's an interesting thing to dive back into, and there's a few YouTube channels who've done really interesting bits on like the strange films that came out from like the 80s and 70s. There's a weird Captain America film where he's kind of a surfer dude. It's really odd, but there are all sorts of weird and wonderful ones that exist.
But they had with the Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby, whatever, they did a TV movie version, didn't they, where they came across Thor, and I remember that film of kind of them two smashing through the polystyrene sets together, and they didn't get along with each other, then suddenly there you go, Tim's there, there's a Hulk Thor team up, and it was just like, what is this? But I was all for it. I was loving it as a kid, but it definitely was low budget compared to these other things, and I remember kind of seeing the Tobey Maguire stuff as going, oh wow, this is that kind of moment to jump into Spider-Man, and really
I think kind of it was their attempt at doing an actual blockbuster, wasn't it, of a superhero film, the thing that all the family will go and see, and I think it did work, didn't it, for a time. They were some pretty decent films.
And they have been the script. I mean, some of the scripts, apart from, I think there's one Hulk movie that I just can't watch again, and I think that was because of my passion for the TV show. That the Hulk movie just felt like a complete letdown. I was so excited for it, and then it was rubbish. But most of the other Marvel movies that have come since, the script has been really good. And I think the script for me is, I don't know what that weird noise is. It sounds like we're under the sea right now.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
I can't hear it.
Maybe that's just me
then. For me, X-Men was really good, and it was kind of a real introduction to kind of superhero movies, and I thought they did it really quite well and quite kind of, in some respects, quite restrained, and they didn't kind of go, completely over the top with it in a like Batman, and the way that kind of, I can't remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Freeze, that was kind of that almost camp or
pantomime
operatic it was like this kind of really,
which you can do with translating graphic novels into real life movies.
But there's an element where you could say they were in some ways more loyal to some of the more classic style of the comic books.
It just makes them look very, very silly.
Yes.
But for me, so I thought X-Men was very good. X-Men 2, it was okay.
I
and then
X-Men 2.
I
feel like we're going to disagree on a lot of these.
But then X-Men 3 I thought was really bad. But then Spider-Man came in. To me, I really struggle with Tobey Maguire. I just don't really rate him as an actor. And I will be honest. So Spider-Man 1 and 2, I really got behind and really loved. Spider-Man 3, genuinely, I don't know if I've said this before, this was the first time I've walked out with a cinema and strangers kind of chatting across strangers and saying, this is the worst film we've been to see. And I've never had that before, ever. Where you've got chatting to people and going, yeah, it was rubbish, wasn't it? I was like, I ain't got a clue who you are, but we're all agreeing, and you could hear that chuntering, that muttering coming out, going, I can't believe how bad that was. And genuinely, I've never, and I'm not just saying for that to sensationalise, that was always stuck with me. So much so that when I was there kind of going, if Sony are going to create another Spider-Man, I'm not going to watch it at the cinema, because they've had my money. They've had my money for that. They've betrayed me. And so when Andrew Garfield did kind of, is it Amazing Spider-Man? I thought that was good, but I waited until it was out on for cheap, rather than paying Sony.
Fair, because it is an expensive thing to go to the cinema, and I don't begrudge you that at all. I think I came at it in a different way because I was, I think I can't remember when it came out, but I was still no older than 10 or 11, so I was still in that excited child. It's a Spider-Man film. It could have been any Spider-Man film, and I would have been excited to go and see it. But going back now, I think I do look at it somewhat with rose-coloured glasses because of all that excitement as a child with the nostalgia. However, I can appreciate it's not a well-made film, and it is trying to do far too much in the time that it has. Absolutely. Similarly with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they're just trying to do too much in one film.
Fun fact, Amazing Spider-Man's plot in the bare bones film was supposed to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 plot. Yes, I think I've read that somewhere. And I think this is it, because actually I really enjoyed, when I did get to see kind of Andrew Garfield's one, I thought it was amazing. I thought, brilliant, great. And then Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro, I was just like, oh no, they've thrown too much stuff at it again, and it gets to that point of any Hollywood blockbuster. As soon as you start throwing too much stuff, it's there kind of go. You're just trying to hope that something sticks, and it just wasn't that good. I'm just trying to, because Kurt Connors was in all.
Yeah, so to add background, the guy who was who is the Lizard in Spider-Man, Dr. Kirk Connors, is in all three of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, and the plan was that he was going to be the villain in Spider-Man 4. That didn't happen, and so they used that plan for Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and
I guess that if you were building
that
up to it, that makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
once you then, but I think I'm really glad that they kind of with what's his face, the latest Spider-Man, what's his name?
Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
I'm really glad that we didn't get to see Uncle Ben. So where's the potential spoilers? Uncle Ben dying for a third time, because I was there kind of going, oh my gosh, I can't be bothered anymore. Even if they did this the best way possible, I just wouldn't care, because it's just like, how many more times can we see Uncle Ben on the floor? Or it's just like. So I'm really glad that I know kind of, and I guess the way that the Marvel Universe film anyway, or the Marvel kind of film universe kind of does things, is like goes, well, we'll twist that bit, we'll change that bit, we'll play around with this and tweak this just to make it a bit more cohesive, rather than trying to explain to the nth degree. I'm really glad that kind of Marvel decided to kind of, dare I say, cut some corners and kind of use kind of Tony Stark as the father figure in that and that sort of stuff. I'm quite kind of relieved at that, really.
Yeah, because I think in the zeitgeist by then, everybody kind of knew how Spider-Man came about, because we'd all been exposed to it over and over. So I think it made complete sense of actually, let's just get into Spider-Man where he's got his powers, he's learning how to use them. Let's not do the whole origin story all over again. Because I agree. I would think it would just have been treading over very well trodden ground once again.
Yeah. What's this? They avoided the Batman problem. Oh, this is it, isn't it? There's only so many times you can do an origin story, and I think we've said about this before. Of if you explain things too much, then you lose the mystery, and therefore the kind of the source dries up. I think that's the problem with Wolverine in some respects, is that they didn't just have him as a mysterious character. They had to kind of go, okay, this was the backstory. This was more of the backstory. This is more and more of the backstory. And kind of, in some respects, I realise it's a studio trying to mine as much money out of the character as possible, and their kind of, what is it called? Their investment, I guess, really. But it's just, if you mine it too much, then all mystery is gone.
Yeah, you need a bit of mystery.
And it's just a bit of a shame, because I did watch Wolverine. I did watch all of them, and it was just a bit of a shame. I'm trying to remember what the other film's called. In Japan.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh
The Wolverine.
Yeah.
And then Logan was the most recent one, which I quite enjoyed it as a quite different take on the character.
I enjoyed it the least, probably, out of most of the Marvel Universe movies, other than the Hulk. Wolverine.
Which Hulk one was it, by the way? I'm trying to work out whether it was the Eric Banner one, or
I'm
if it was
the Eric Banner one, because that one was pretty dire.
And
that wasn't
Liv
part
Tyler.
of the MCU. Liv Tyler was in the Eric Norton. Not Eric Norton, Edward Norton.
Oh, Edward Norton. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was thinking
it might have been... I don't know now.
There was one that was just Hulk, and then there was one that was the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
And they came out about 3 years apart, I think.
And I think one was like the... was it Sony's license or something? And then basically it reverted back to Marvel's. So
it kind of... It was their kind of last gasp, I think, at doing something, and it just kind of didn't work.
Because otherwise, the rights revert back to the original kind of people. So, do you know what I mean? And this is the problem, isn't it? Of when you kind of talk about some superhero movies, there's the creation itself, and Stan Lee, bless him, all that kind of stuff is one thing, and the kind of childhood hero that it is and all this kind of stuff. But then there's this other kind of greater studio politics playing a bigger part, which can make or break something. We were talking about the Fantastic Four in the comments. That there are ways in which kind of rewrites and change of directors can just kill something before it's even had a chance to fly.
Yeah.
And when you've kind of got a good kind of, even with a good fan base, you're there kind of going, come on, and you're willing it on. And I guess we should kind of, an honourable mention to Deadpool, because actually that kind of came out from Ryan Reynolds. Did he do a mock trailer or like a mock kind of thing?
I think they did, yeah, almost like a test thing to see if it worked.
And suddenly people got behind it.
And it worked so good.
It did, yes.
It's so good.
I revisited Deadpool 2 just earlier this week because Becky was away. And I was there going to go, Deadpool 1 was definitely better.
Brilliant.
It's but that is something that does show you when kind of an audience, a fan kind of base can get behind something and really kind of propel it. That was it. A test trailer had been leaked after being in the shelf for years. You should be on.
I think I saw
Tim, where are you?
With Ryan Reynolds, and he talked about how I think 4 of them had access to that trailer, and somebody leaked it. Nobody will say who, but one of them did. And so, which I'm very grateful for, because it's one of, I remember seeing Deadpool at uni, and it was one of the best superhero films I'd seen for ages, because it was just so refreshing.
Oh, Tim's trying to get a child to see.
Good luck, Tim.
We've all been there.
Well.
Yeah. It's so where else? Where next for?
I feel like we've been skirting around the MCU really well for about half an hour.
Do we talk about Iron Man, Tony Stark?
I think it's a good place to start. And I think what you were talking about, Mark, about the rights is interesting, because I think, if I remember rightly, the reason that Marvel picked the lineup for the Avengers that they were going to use, I think it hadn't been like the official lineup in the comics for something like 30 years. So it was completely not the modern Avengers. But because they had the rights to the classic Avengers, they just went with it. And excellent! I have the affirmation of Tim, so I feel like we're going in the right direction.
We should just have that. Luke is correct. J.K. Rowling
make
is
that
wrong.
as a banner.
No, I really, that for me was like, okay, Marvel's come home, as in the kind of superheroes have come home, and I was just the Iron Man was the first one. I watched it and kind of went, I'm going to play it again. And we sat down and watched it a second time on the same night. And it was just like, this was fantastic, because it was kind of, it felt fresh and groundbreaking. And, that whole kind of like, oh, who am I? Oh, secret identity. And just him going, I'm Iron Man. It was just like, oh, yeah, come on. And you kind of got behind it. But, and I think, and I remember it kind of in I must have been playing some Mega Drive game of the Avengers or something. And I remember Iron Man just being a rubbish character. And everyone wanted to be Spider-Man. Everybody wanted to be all the other characters. And it was just like, isn't Iron Man just a robot who flies around and zaps lasers? Whereas they created such a better character. Using
Tony
the base
Stark,
material as well.
Human being. And,
is fantastic. And then and I think that kind of relaunched or properly launched the Marvel Studio, really.
Because I think the Incredible Hulk came out first, but didn't go down particularly well at the box office. And Iron Man really was. I'm not sure if it was a complete flop, but I just don't think it caught people's attention. But Iron Man was a stellar performer.
I think because of the Hulk came first, and then there was the Incredible Hulk 3 years later, and we've already had the kind of the staggering of the Spider-Man, Spider-Man, an amazing Spider-Man. Is there kind of going, oh gosh, and it's this kind of, you've really got to throw something different into the mix in order to get people excited about it. And I think it just kind of came to life, really. And then obviously. Hulk was 2003. Iron Man was 2008. Yeah, was there. So but I think the studio needed to progress, and that was their kind of stepping stone into becoming the Marvel studio, and then kind of Thor, or Captain America, or America Thor. I can't remember which way around it is. I think it's Captain America then Thor, is it? Anyway, but
I'll try and find out.
It started to. Do you know what I mean? And that for me is when it started to. They started to fire on all four cylinders, and it just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And sequels a little bit more dubious, I would say. Thor 2, Dark
Didn't
World.
enjoy
Yeah.
Iron Man 2, if I'm honest. Iron Man 3 I did, but Iron Man 2 I was a bit
They were
bored.
definitely shakier, but I think they'd established, and I think this is what a lot of other things that tried to do the cinematic universe didn't do. They'd established a really firm foundation of some really good characters, and built that loyalty amongst the fans. I was willing, because I'd been to see Captain America, Thor. I think Iron Man 2 came out before the Avengers as well. Then the Avengers, which was brilliant. I was willing to forgive Thor: The Dark World and things that just weren't quite as good.
Oh, here we go.
Here we are.
Phase 1. Iron Man 2, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, Avengers. Yeah, I think for me, I actually liked Iron Man 2, actually. And because that's the one with that's not my butt.
Whiplash.
Whiplash, yeah. And I really loved it. And I just loved that kind of... I should have had all these names written down. Against the other guy, who's the arms guy. Who
when we do DC, we'll be more organised.
Yes, Hammer. He was great. I can't remember the actor's name.
Yeah.
He stole the show for me because he was just so fun.
Yeah, Justin Hammer. Yeah. So Tim, we're just using Tim as a guide now. He's our prompt. But I just loved that and kind of that everything that kind of Tony Stark was. Justin Hammer wants to be, and he's just trying to be like, oh yeah, look at me, and then kind of just Tony could just cleans him out. It's fantastic, and he just falls on his sword, so it's good. The kind of. And I think this is, dare I say, maybe where, when we kind of go through the various phases, and just like we said about Thor 2, I think this is where suddenly you kind of, a successful studio, suddenly they kind of go, oh, we can't run too far ahead. And you almost feel as if they have like placeholder films, or films where they kind of go, we've got to wait for things to line up before we do the next bit, and suddenly they lose momentum, and actually what could have been another great film just becomes a film. It's still okay, it's still a Marvel film, but I'm still eating my popcorn. That was my gesture, by the way. Still having the popcorn, still like yeah. But actually it doesn't do something more than the previous one, and it's that. But I guess how do you keep on going? And surely you've got to have a bit of a rubbish one every now and again.
And given the quantity that they came out with so quickly, I think it didn't matter too much that you got a slightly less good quality film, because you wait 5 months, 6 months, and there's another one, and normally it'll be a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, Tim's also said Sam Rockwell. He's supposedly back for Armour Wars, so that should be good.
Oh, that's exciting.
So, where do we go? What direction do we go in next? I mean, I've got to say, kind of bringing the Avengers together in the first case, and when we've mentioned about just flinging characters at the wall and seeing what sticks, I thought kind of Avengers and many of these films where they've got multiple kind of superheroes together, Marvel's done reasonably well, actually.
Yeah.
And
I got, particularly where the way they meshed them together, the scripts that went with those different characters, they stayed true to their lane, but at the same time then created the network across it. I think that for me was what really brought the whole thing alive. At that and Guardians of the Galaxy was just them coming together, just magicked.
I love the fact that in Avengers, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't meant to be eating in the lab scenes, and that he just kept on eating on site and just kept on just kind of bringing out kind of bits of food, and so that is their general reaction. Really love that. But Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah, I've not seen the third one, but
So
I
good.
thought, because Guardians of the Galaxy was just unassuming, it just kind of came in and no one knew anything of it. And yet, suddenly, not only was it a fantastic film, I mean, I imagine Sony Walkman have kind of seen a sudden kind of an exponential lift, and dare I say, with tapes,
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
all the artists that got featured suddenly were
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
"Oh, my royalty checks are looking
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
healthier than they were last month."
Because
Yeah.
I
So it just-
definitely bought all those soundtracks.
I remember you playing it in the office. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the soundtrack to a summer.
And I bought the album, yeah. I mean, and I'm very
Yeah.
rarely bought by film albums,
Yeah.
so I was very, I was thinking,
Yeah.
how can I use this in a worship song? Maybe not Cherry Bomb. But yeah, no, I thought, and I think this is it, that Guardians was such kind of like an underdog, and it was just suddenly just like, wow.
Yeah.
And it was so stylized in the way that, dare I say, I think it was maybe some of the Marvel films were starting to kind of just get into the same rhythm and routine and recipe.
Yeah, because I think they were quite formulaic up to that point.
Yeah.
You'd had, your origin film, maybe a sequel that they get to do a bit more, and then you'd had the Avengers. But yeah, suddenly it was kind of a genre flip. It was suddenly, oh yeah, we're going to do something that's really intentionally very funny, rather than do your more traditional action adventure, which takes guts, I think, in kind of modern cinema to really be willing to give that a try.
Yeah. I think Wahiti was, and I think that for him, is it Taki? I can never pronounce his name
Taika
properly.
Waititi.
Yeah, thank you. I thought he was fantastic, and I think that he's kind of done really well. And like Thor Ragnarok again, it was just an amazing,
really funny.
and I remember watching that kind of going, I don't know if I like that. Becky's like, what do you mean? I was like, I genuinely don't know if I thought it was absolutely amazing or really weird. And I'm going to have to watch it again. And I really did. And I sat down. I think it was the next night last time. And basically, I was just blown away and went, actually, you know what? I am with him in this. And I'm happy to kind of suspend all disbelief of a superhero movie, and I'm there, So
I found those funnier ones to be really good ins as well for people who maybe were less big superhero fans, didn't see the appeal. So my wife in particular, the films that were more comedic allowed us to connect on those on this thing that I really enjoyed. So she really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, Thor Ragnarok, because they were funny as well. So even though she didn't have a connection to the Marvel universe, she still could enjoy the film a great deal.
And I think for Thor Ragnarok, it flips the expectation, and suddenly kind of Thor isn't the kind of strutting kind of guy in charge. Suddenly he can get zapped, he can get electrocuted, which I never fully understand, the whole kind of God of Thunder, lightning, and he's getting zapped. I'm sure there's like a frequency or something, but but suddenly he's kind of captive. Potential spoilers, but again, kind of that ability to kind of come out of it is just fantastic. And just to give us something more. I'm aware that time is running away with us, and we've not even there is such an expansive Marvel universe.
Yeah, we've not even got to Wakanda Forever.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah,
I know. And there is the whole criticism, and I think it's often actors who have not been part of the Marvel universe, how essentially the superhero movies have dumbed down our access to storytelling and all the rest of it. Do you think that's true? Do you think because of the formulaicness of essentially graphic novels being turned into movies that we're limiting our access to?
I think my honest opinion would be the breadth that this genre, if you want to call it a genre, can hold, kind of belies that line, because I'd liken it to anime, in the sense of it's less a genre of films and more a style of films that then multiple genres fit into. So, I think you take somebody who says that and show them something like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which has such depth of emotion that can make me cry and make me laugh, cry with laughter and cry with, despair in the same film. I don't think you can say that's a dumbed down version of cinema, really. From my perspective. Now, there are a lot of people who will look at these films and go, "Oh, well, they're just silly superhero films." But I think if you can look past that and see these as genuine characters and people, and then connect with their stories, I think that goes beyond just being a silly film.
I realise we haven't talked about the multiverse yet, but maybe we need to leave that for like a part 2, because that is a whole other kind of conversation.
Saga.
Yeah, well, this is it. Do you know what I mean?
Manage more.
I think, we could go very much, and I'm aware that we've kind of got about 10 minutes left, and I don't think we could kind of cover the multiverse that well. But yeah, so we then kind of. Do I kind of try and put my faith hat on and reflect on kind of what a superhero movie did for us? Tim's put there. Tim will be there for multiverse guidance. Yes, thank you, Tim. It's been appreciated this evening. I think for me there is something here, and I've got to admit, I've got to put my hand up. I actually did something about being superhero and hero of Jesus in my MA dissertation, and I actually compared it to Doctor Who and various other kind of superhero figures, and the Heroes kind of TV series, and I thought that actually it's very interesting seeing how we can see kind of super people and kind of how they have a choice in life to do things, and an opportunity to do greatness and otherwise, or become a villain, and kind of helps reflect our own choices. And these are just kind of like, these are amplified, over the top kind of human, kind of figures, characters, but actually there's a core, like Captain America, kind of, actually it wasn't about his build or otherwise. It was about the fact that he was willing to jump on a live grenade, or what he thought was a live grenade, and it kind of just reflects a little bit about our true humanity, a true kind of hope and kind of desire to be the best versions of ourselves. And I think that for me kind of reflects in my faith a bit, really, and about sort of saying, actually, I trust in somebody who is hopefully going to draw me to be the best version of myself. I wish I have more of a 6-pack, or a 6-pack, or a 4-pack would do.
Superhero serum, don't you worry.
Yeah, I'll be there. But do you know what I mean? I just it allows us to kind of see the hope in kind of humanity and what the best could be, but then also there are films where that is kind of toyed with and played and sort of say, well, what happens when it goes bad, when it goes sour? Any thoughts from
when you mentioned Captain America, it reminds me of a discussion we were having while I was at university about the portrayal of Christians in cinema. And one of the sort of key ones that comes back in my mind as a really good, from my perspective, portrayal of a Christian who doesn't go around telling everyone they're a Christian, but does good things, is Captain America. Because at the start of the Avengers 2012, he is talking to Black Widow, and they're on a Quinjet, and they are watching Thor and Loki have a fight, and Black Widow says, "You want to sit this one out, Cap, because these guys are basically gods." And he turns to her and goes, "There's only one God, ma'am, and he doesn't dress like that." Now, we don't hear Captain America talking about how he is a person of faith or somebody who believes in a god. He's doing all these good things, but I refer back to that one little line and go, but he's affirmed that he believes in one God. And so all of what he does then starts to speak to me of someone who can live out a faith that does things for people without turning around to them and prophetizing, saying, you need to now believe what I believe.
A similar moment for me was Nightcrawler. Is it in X-Men 2? And where he kind of recites Psalm 23. And it's just that subtle, it's just there. And again, he's not in your face with it. He's just there at a time of real kind of sadness that he just kind of, is it on the helicopter sort of thing? Oh, Elliot's jumping on saying, what's everyone's favourite Marvel film?
I know what
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Elliot has a thing where he has a real affinity for any character who looks a lot like him, and now he's grown a beard, he looks even more like Doctor Strange than he used to. By far his favourite film while we were at uni.
Is that true, Elliot?
He's not going to go in there. How have we not mentioned Nightcrawler, Practicing Catholic Priest, or Daredevil? Absolutely. Well, and again, Daredevil and Elektra were all these kind of failed to launch sort of films, and anything, dare I say, with Ben Affleck as a superhero, it doesn't get my money. Sorry, my own personal views again. But favourite Marvel film. It's a toss up, I think, between that initial feeling of Iron Man to Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy. Those three for me were kind of really stand out.
Guardians for me.
It's so hard because there's so many. I've said it before on this. I'm a big fan of endings and everything that has been built coming together. So Avengers Endgame and Infinity War kind of does all that for me. But yeah, in terms of sheer character development, Guardians Volume 2 is a firm favourite that I go back to again and again, and I can just watch in isolation without going, I need to watch this film next, or I need to watch this to prepare for it.
Yeah. There is a problem in terms of comparing superheroes that have come out of America with our belief in one God, because to compare Jesus to a superhero becomes a bit problematic because of the power involved. And actually, Jesus didn't come in all guns blazing, look at the power, I can fix everything because I am strong. And I know that our work, in fact, we've had at the conference I've been at, we've had a photo frame that specifically says, I am not a hero. And on the back of our jumpers, it says, hang up your cape. Because there's something problematic when we think in order to fix problems, one person needs to have a huge amount of power to do unto other people so that their lives are made better. And there has to be a better way. And as much as I love the Marvel universe, and I really do, it is perpetrating a colonial way of fixing problems, that there are weak people and there are strong people, and the strong people will come in with all of their skill sets, whether that is money, intellect or strength, and they will fix it for the people that are vulnerable. And we know that doesn't work, and that's not how Jesus does it. He did it in the opposite way. He came alongside, he worked in collaboration, he pulled people to him, and he empowered them to go out and do the same. So in terms of faith, I think that needs saying, and saying often that isn't the hero that Jesus came to be. He flipped it upside down on its head. And that's what pissed off, the Jews at the time. Bleep, sorry, hang on. Sorry, everyone.
We nearly managed the whole episode. No, only joking. I'm joking. I think we are nearly out of time, but I think for me, there is something about there is a significant difference between superhero and a hero in the sense of actually kind of Hera and the kind of the mythology of kind of Hera dying for the sake, and actually in the early wars, heroes would be those who died in war, in the army, and so actually there's something about giving one's life for the greater good, and I think that kind of taps in. But again, do you know what I mean? I think this is where we kind of where we talk about this kind of fictional stuff, and actually it kind of loses its. It becomes more tangential with our kind of faith, and we can't kind of directly relate to it, but there are hopefully kind of ways in which it can help nurture and help us reflect on kind of where we find our strength, where we find our hope, and where we can hope, kind of see hope in others as well, and I kind of again, we'll leave it for the multiverse, but I really like kind of a part of that, dare I say, redemptive story of Loki, of being the baddie, but still being family with his brother, and there's still hope for him. And I quite like those sort of kind of, it gives me tingles. That it's just that there's moments that even, people are kind of redeemable. There's an opportunity.
And I think that's why I like Guardians of the Galaxy, because you take a broken group of disconnected people, and together they're drawn in, and redeemed through relationship. And I think that for me is why it sits so highly. Is that in order, Elliot?
I don't know if he's in order, but sorry, I've realised I put the wrong one up first. You see, then he's put, but I'm a big fan of Doctor Strange as a character, just not big fan on his films.
I found the film so weird.
Beard.
I like the first Doctor Strange, but I will. Yeah, we'll talk about multiverse another time.
We'll come back to them later.
But
we can maybe go through each phase and do a special.
There we go. Have we done phase 1 today?
Maybe. I think we've done the preamble.
Yeah, we haven't got fully. We'll have to come back and do a bit more of Marvel, but and then maybe take an opportunity to do DC at some point as well. Bless them, especially as their universe is it's closing, isn't it? Or closed, but it's now making way for James Gunn's kind of reinvented kind of DC universe, whatever it may be.
Yeah, they need to be willing to just make a few good films. Like DC is they're doing what you talked about of let's just try and milk this cash cow before we've even bred the cow. Like it's how it feels. Like the cow's not even out and we're trying to milk it. Come on, just take them one step at a time.
I've got such a horrible image right now. In utero milk it. No, come on.
Oh no. On that note.
And on that note,
yes.
people, thank you so much for coming.
It is our hour. Just to say, folks, next week we will be, or as of next week, we'll be no longer on Thursdays but on Tuesdays. And I'm sorry, Luke, because that impacts your D&D night. So you'll be cancelling that, yeah? No. But I hope you won't be a stranger. It's been a pleasure having you. And come back on, please do. And folks, thank you for being here, Becca, Luke, and everyone watching at home. Favourable mentions, David, Tim, Elliot, and Tom. I believe that was everyone who commented. Shouldn't really start naming people because then I'll forget people. That's fantastic. Shall we say goodbye for now? Is that okay to drop people off the screen?
Yep.
Right?
Come and join the Discord. It's great fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And come and share your kind of geeky gallery stuff as well. So, God bless you, Luke. I'm going to drop you off. Bye, guys. Becca, should I drop you off as well?
Yeah, drop me off.
Don't have to. Yeah, but anyway.
No, leave me on then.
Leave you on. Cool. Well, thank you. I think that's been good. Has it, Becca?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're good at chatting, and I think we show our love for it.
Yeah.
Deeply geeky.
Deeply geeky. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I was about to say that wrong then, geekly deepy, but that doesn't make sense. Bless you. Well, I think we're going to finish, shall we?
We are.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Geek safe.
Geeks for the win.